My name is Amir, and what I'm about to tell you happened in the summer of 2019 in a remote village in northern Iran called Chali Darbande. This wasn't a campfire story or an urban legend. This was the closest I have ever come to dying. I had returned from Tehran after my grandmother passed away. My parents live abroad, so the responsibility to clear out her old house fell on me. I hadn't been there in years, but the moment I stepped inside, it felt like walking into a memory I wasn't ready for. The house was over a century old, clay walls cracked like dry skin, wooden floors that complained under every step, and a roof that screamed whenever the wind pushed against it. There was no electricity the night I arrived. A storm had knocked it out earlier, and my phone had no signal. So I unpacked my bags by the light of a flashlight and 3 tall white candles I found in a drawer. The whole place smelled like wet soil, old wood, and something else, something stale, like perfume that had been trapped for decades. I was sorting through my grandmother's belongings when I found a small black and white photograph buried under a stack of letters. A young woman, maybe 18, 19, with enormous dark eyes and an expression that looked empty. On the back, written in shaky blue ink, Fatemeh, 1985. I had never heard that name before, not once. I slipped the photo into my pocket and kept working until exhaustion forced me to stop. Around 11:30, I laid out my bedding on the floor of the living room, the same place my grandmother used to sit and watch the rain, and blew out the candles. The storm outside shook the roof. Raindrops hammered the old tiles. Tick, 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 in a slow, irregular rhythm. It didn't take long for me to fall asleep. I woke to a noise I can still hear in my nightmares. At first, it was faint, like someone dragging a fingernail slowly across a wall. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I sat up, breathing hard. The sound stopped when I reached for the flashlight. I convinced myself it was a mouse or the house settling. I lay back down. 30 seconds later, the sound returned, this time closer. Behind the wall of my grandmother's bedroom, a slow, deliberate scratching that moved, almost thoughtfully. I stood, walked to her old bedroom door and pressed my ear against the wood. The scratching stopped. Silence. Then, a breath. A long, slow exhale. So close it felt like someone was standing on the other side of the door, breathing right into the cracks. Cold air slid across my cheek. My stomach tightened. "Who's there?" I whispered. No answer. I pushed the door open with my flashlight in hand. Her room was empty. No footprints in the dust. No curtains moving. No window open. But the smell. Her old perfume. A flowery, antique scent she used to wear when I was a kid. I shut the door and backed away. Around 3:20 a.m., I fell asleep again, and that's when the dream came. A woman in a long white dress stood next to my bed. Her hair was impossibly long, black as oil, reaching all the way to the floor. I couldn't see her face. It was buried in that curtain of hair. But she whispered my name like she had been calling it for years. "Amir, wake up. It isn't time yet." Her hand, ice cold, touched my cheek. I shot awake, choking on a scream. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would break the ribs around it. The wooden floors above me creaked. Footsteps. Soft, slow footsteps pacing upstairs. The exact sound I used to hear as a kid in this house. And back then, my grandmother always told me, "It's just the wood settling, sweetheart. Houses make noise when they're old." But these weren't random. These were footsteps with weight behind them. I grabbed the flashlight and climbed the stairs. With every step upward, the air got colder. My breath turned white in front of me, in the middle of summer. The hallway was dark, only the moonlight spilling through the far window. The footsteps stopped. Then, a voice, a woman's voice, whispered from the end of the hallway. "Amir." That voice, it sounded exactly like my grandmother when she was angry. My flashlight shook in my hand as I pointed it at the end of the hall. There was a door there. The same door that had always been locked when I was a kid. The same room I was told never to enter. The lock, a rusty metal padlock, was on the ground, broken. The door slightly open. My throat tightened as I stepped forward. I could smell her perfume again. And something else. Something damp, like rope left in a river. I pushed the door open. My flashlight swept across the room. A metal bed frame, a cracked wooden wardrobe, and a huge mirror mounted on the wall, its surface fractured like a spider web. The room was empty, but in the mirror, I saw her. A tall, thin woman standing directly behind me. Hair down to the floor, head tilted so sharply it looked like her neck had snapped. Her arms hung at her sides, fingers long and crooked. I spun around. Nothing was there. The door slammed shut behind me, throwing me into total darkness. My flashlight slipped from my hand and rolled across the floor, flickering weakly. In that oppressive dark, something brushed my neck. A cold fingertip, then a whole hand wrapped around my throat. Her nails, long, broken, dug into my skin. I choked, unable to scream. Her breath hit the back of my ear, freezing cold. "Stay with me. Don't leave me alone again." My vision dimmed, my knees buckled. I don't remember opening the door. I don't remember running. But suddenly I was falling, tumbling down the stairs, smashing into the wall at the bottom. I tasted blood. My vision blurred. The house was silent. Somehow I crawled to the yard and collapsed face down in the wet soil. I woke to sunlight and voices. Villagers had found me unconscious at the gate. My face was covered in deep scratches, 5 long marks from my jaw to my shoulder. They took me inside a neighbor's house, and when I told them what had happened, they didn't laugh. They didn't question my sanity. One old man, Reza, looked at me with pity in his eyes. "Amir, you've met Fatemeh." "Who is that?" I asked. He took a long, "Your grandmother's daughter. She died in this house in 1985. She was 18. She hanged herself in the locked room after your grandfather refused to let her marry a soldier she loved." My chest tightened. "And she still comes back?" I whispered. He nodded. "Anyone who sleeps alone in that house, she visits. First, she calls their name. Then she gets close. If the storm is quiet, if there's no thunder to scare her, she finishes what she started." I didn't want to believe him, but I reached into my pocket, and the photograph was still there. The girl with the giant, empty eyes. Only now, she wasn't empty. She was smiling. I sold the house the same day. I never went back to Chali Darbande. But here's the part I can't explain, the part that keeps me awake even now. Some nights, only when it rains, my bedroom door in Tehran creaks open, and I hear footsteps on the wooden floorboards, soft, slow, coming straight toward my bed. Last week, during a blackout, I felt cold fingers touch the back of my neck, and a voice whispered, "Amir, this time there is no thunder."